The shuttle moved through space like a silver needle threading through darkness. Inside, Jinho Park sat with his hands folded on his lap. He wore a simple black suit that represented Earth, no medals, no decorations. Just clean lines and quiet dignity. Across from him sat Yuna Kim, her dark eyes scanning through data on a tablet. She had spent 3 years preparing for this moment. Next to her, Taeyang Choi checked his military briefing one more time. His uniform was pressed sharp. Hana Lee, the youngest of the group, stared out the window at the massive station growing larger in the view. The Nexus station was unlike anything humans had ever built. It stretched for miles in every direction. Light sparkled across its surface like stars trapped in metal. Hundreds of ships from hundreds of worlds docked at its ports. Some ships looked like crystals. Others seemed to be made of living metal. A few were so strange that human eyes couldn't quite understand their shape. 50 years, Yuna said softly. They watched us for 50 years before inviting us. They wanted to be sure we wouldn't destroy ourselves, Jinho replied. He had read the reports. The galaxy was full of species that had wiped themselves out with their own weapons. Humanity had come close during the resource wars. Very close. The docking process was smooth. The station's systems took control of their shuttle and guided it into a bay. When the doors opened, they were met by a floating sphere that spoke in perfect English. Welcome, humans. Please follow the guide lights to the council chamber. They walked through corridors that were too tall and too wide for human proportion. The walls showed images from thousands of worlds. Oceans made of liquid methane. Mountains of diamond. Cities that floated in gas giants. The galaxy was vast and old, and humanity was very young. The council chamber took Jinho's breath away. It was a massive sphere with seats arranged in rings that went up and up until they disappeared into shadow. Each seat held a different species. Some breathed air. Some sat in tanks of water. Others existed as clouds of gas held in force fields. 847 species. 847 different paths evolution had taken across the stars. And all of them were looking at the 4 humans standing in the center of the chamber. A voice boomed through the space. It came from everywhere and nowhere. The council recognizes the delegation from Earth. You may present your case for membership. Jinho stepped forward. His voice was calm and clear. Honored members of the Galactic Council, we come before you not as conquerors or traitors, but as neighbors. We have spent 5 decades preparing for this moment. We have worked to understand your laws and your customs. We have tried to prove ourselves worthy of joining you among the stars. He activated a hologram. It showed Earth in blue and green. Our world has faced many challenges. We have known war and hunger. We have made mistakes that nearly destroyed us. But we learned, we grew. We came together as one species with one voice. The hologram changed. It showed human cities with clean energy, farms that fed billions, schools where children learned about the galaxy. We have developed fusion technology that could power worlds. We have created quantum computers that solve problems in seconds. We have learned to heal diseases that once killed millions. We have built ships that can reach 30% of light speed. Yuna stepped forward next. She spoke about human culture. The music humans made, the stories they told, the art they created. She showed them paintings and sculptures. She played them symphonies. Taeyang presented their military. He was honest about human capabilities. Humans had weapons, yes, but they had also learned when not to use them. They had ended a world war without destroying their planet. That had to count for something. Hana showed them human science. The discoveries they had made about physics and chemistry. The way they had cleaned their atmosphere, how they had saved endangered species, the mathematics they had developed. When they finished, the chamber was quiet. Then, from somewhere in the upper ring, someone began to clap. It was slow, mocking. Others joined in. The sound grew until it echoed through the chamber. A tall figure stood. He had 4 arms and skin like polished metal. His voice was smooth like oil. How charming. The primitives have learned to count and make fire. Shall we give them a medal? Laughter rippled through the chamber. Not from everyone. Some species sat silent, but enough laughed that the sound felt like a physical blow. Jinho stood straight. His team stood with him. They had come across the galaxy with hope in their hearts. They had believed that the council would see their potential, that they would be welcomed. Instead, they were being laughed at like children who had tried to sit at the adults' table. The laughter continued. And Jinho Park, ambassador of Earth, said nothing at all. The laughter died down slowly. When the chamber was quiet again, the voice returned. The Council will now begin standard evaluation protocols. Commander Taeyang Choi, please present your military assessment. Taeyang walked to the center. He had practiced this presentation 100 times. He brought up displays showing human military tactics, the way humans fought, the strategies they used. He showed battle simulations and training procedures. A massive creature rose from one of the lower rings. It had scales like armor and eyes that glowed red. General Krorthax of the Drax Federation. Your species still uses bullets? The general's voice rumbled like thunder. Metal projectiles thrown by chemical explosions? We stopped using such primitive weapons 10,000 years ago. More laughter filled the chamber. Our directed energy weapons can cut through mountains, Krorthax continued. Our shields can stop a nuclear blast. And you come here with guns? This is what you call military advancement? Taeyang kept his face calm. Our weapons are effective for our current needs. We are always working to improve them. Effective? Another species called out. Your fastest warship would take weeks to cross a single star system. Our fighters do it in hours. You are children playing with toys. The displays changed. They showed human ships, sleek vessels that humanity had poured decades of research into, ships that could carry crews in safety, ships that could explore nearby stars. Hana Lee stepped forward to present them. She spoke with pride about the engines, the life support systems. The navigation computers, a being made of pure crystal, floated down from the upper rings. Its voice chimed like bells, but the words were cold. 0.3 light speed, how quaint. The Vextar scientist gestured with appendages that bent light. Our cargo ships, our slowest and most basic cargo ships, travel at 0.7 light speed. Our military vessels reach 0.9. Your fastest ship is our garbage scow. The crystal being circled the hologram of humanity's pride and joy. And this design, so inefficient. You waste energy on chemical fuel cells. You still use physical controls. You haven't even discovered proper quantum navigation. Did you come here to join the council or to ask us for babysitting? Laughter again. Louder this time. Yuna felt her hands clench into fists. She forced them to relax. Our technology serves our people well, Hana said quietly. We have much to learn, yes. That is why we came here, to learn from species who have traveled this path before us. Learn. The crystal being's voice went sharp. You are so far behind that you cannot even see the path. You would need thousands of years just to understand our basic technology. You are not ready for this council. You are barely ready to leave your own moon. The evaluation continued for hours. Every aspect of humanity was examined and found wanting. Their medicine was primitive. Their energy production was wasteful. Their mathematics were simple. Their understanding of physics was incomplete. One by one, representatives from the great powers of the galaxy stood up to point out human failures. The Ancient Ones, species that had ruled the stars for 100,000 years, barely looked at the human data. They had seen thousands of young species. Humanity was nothing special. A dignified figure finally stood. Ambassador Minhose of the Vextar Empire. His species controlled 12,000 star systems. They had forgotten more about science than humanity had ever learned. I have reviewed your application with care, Minho said. His voice was calm and measured. That somehow made his words cut deeper. And I find that humanity is not ready for membership in this council. He gestured to the holographic display of Earth. You are a Class 3 world. You have barely mastered your own planet. You have one colony on your moon, and a research station on your neighboring planet. You call this space exploration? Most species have colonized a dozen worlds before they even discover faster-than-light travel. The chamber was silent now. Everyone listened to Minho. He was respected. His words carried weight. Your species has existed for, 300,000 years? We have records going back 2 million. You have had civilization for 10,000 years. We have had civilization for 800,000. You are infants in a galaxy of elders. He turned to look directly at Jinho. Perhaps, Ambassador Park, in another 50,000 years, your species will have matured enough to join civilized society. Until then, I suggest you return to your small corner of space. Stay near your sun. Try not to harm yourselves with your primitive weapons and dangerous experiments. The galaxy is not ready for humanity, and humanity is certainly not ready for the galaxy. The final words hung in the air like a death sentence. The council votes, the voice announced. All in favor of granting humanity membership? Silence. All opposed? 847 lights glowed red. Unanimous rejection. The application is denied. You may return to Earth. And then from every corner of the chamber the laughter started again. It rolled over the human delegation like a wave. Some species laughed with genuine amusement. Others laughed with cruelty. A few laughed with pity, but they all laughed. Jinho Park stood in the center of it all. His team stood with him. They had traveled so far. They had hoped for so much. And now they stood in a chamber filled with beings who saw them as nothing more than a joke. The laughter echoed off the walls. It seemed to go on forever. Jinho Park stood perfectly still as the laughter washed over him. Beside him, Yuna's jaw was tight. Taeyang's hands had curled into fists behind his back. Hana's eyes were bright with tears she refused to let fall. The sound went on and on. Species from every corner of the galaxy, united in their amusement at humanity's expense. They had seen this before, their laughter said. So many young species came with big dreams. So many left with broken pride. Ambassador Min Hoseo smiled from his seat. General Korthax's rumbling laugh shook his entire section of the chamber. The crystal beings chimed in harmonies that would have been beautiful if the sound wasn't so mocking. Slowly, the laughter began to fade. The council waited. This was always the best part. The part where rejected species tried to argue. They would shout about how the council was wrong. They would beg for another chance. They would make promises they couldn't keep. Sometimes they would cry. Sometimes they would threaten. Always they would make a scene. But Jinho Park did not speak. He simply reached down and closed his datapad with a soft click. The sound somehow carried through the massive chamber. In the sudden quiet, it was as loud as a gunshot. "Thank you for your time," Jinho said. His voice was level, calm. There was no anger in it. No desperation. No bitterness. Just simple courtesy. "We understand your position," he bowed. It was a precise 30-degree bow, the formal gesture of respect his culture had practiced for thousands of years. Yuna bowed beside him. Then Taeyang. Then Hana. 4 humans bowing in perfect unison to a council that had just rejected them. Then Jinho turned and walked toward the exit. No pleas. No arguments. No shouting about how they deserved a chance. Just 4 humans walking away with quiet dignity. The council sat in confusion. This was not how it was supposed to go. Where was the anger? The wounded pride? Young species always had so much pride. Ambassador Park, Minho called out. His voice had lost some of its smoothness. "Don't you have anything to say?" Jinho paused at the doorway. He turned back, and for just a moment, his eyes swept across the 847 species. "You have made your decision," he said quietly. "We respect it. Safe travels to you all." Then he walked through the door. His team followed. The door slid shut behind them with a whisper. In the council chamber, nobody laughed now. They sat in uncomfortable silence, looking at each other. Something felt wrong. Rejected species didn't leave like that. They were supposed to fight, to argue, to show emotion. In one of the higher seats, a figure stirred. Counselor Virasin had sat quietly through the entire evaluation. She was old, even by the standards of her long-lived species. She had seen 5,000 species apply to the council. She had watched them be accepted or rejected, and she had studied humans more carefully than anyone else. "This is a mistake," she said quietly, but her voice was too soft. Nobody heard her. Or if they did, they didn't care. The council moved on to the next applicant, a species from the southern spiral arm. They would probably be rejected too. Most species were. The galaxy was harsh and the council's standards were high. By the time the session ended, most of the council had already forgotten about humanity. Outside, in the docking bay, the human delegation boarded their shuttle in silence. Nobody spoke. What was there to say? They had done their best. They had presented humanity's finest achievements, and they had been laughed at like fools. The shuttle detached from the Nexus station. The station's traffic control guided them out of the busy space around the structure. Once they were clear, Yuna activated the ship's communication system. "Preparing message to Earth," she said. Her voice was flat, professional. "How should I word it?" Jinho stared out at the stars. So many stars, so many worlds, and humanity was alone among them all. "Keep it simple," he said. "Application denied. Recommendation: pursue independent development. No further contact advised." Yuna typed the message. Her fingers moved slowly across the keyboard. When she finished, she looked at Jinho. Are we really going to cut contact? They made it clear we're not welcome, Taeyang said. His voice was hard. Why would we keep trying to talk to people who laughed at us? Because we need them, Hana said softly. Don't we? They have technology we don't. Knowledge we lack. How can we advance without their help? Jinho turned from the window. He looked at his team. These 3 brilliant people who had worked so hard, who had believed just like he had that the galaxy would welcome them. We advanced this far without them, he said. Humanity went from caves to spaceships in 10,000 years. We did that alone. Maybe we're better off that way. Alone, Yuna repeated. The word hung heavy in the air. Independent, Jinho corrected. We'll find our own path. We always have. The shuttle turned away from the Nexus station. Its engines fired, pushing it toward the jump point that would take them back to human space. Back to the small corner of the galaxy where a young species was trying to find its place among the stars. Behind them, the Nexus station continued its business. Ships came and went. The council held its sessions. Trade and politics and the business of running a galactic civilization continued as it had for millions of years. Nobody noticed the small human shuttle disappearing into the dark. Nobody cared, and nobody saw the look in Jinho Park's eyes as he took one last glance at the station. It wasn't anger. It wasn't hatred. It was something else entirely. Determination. The galaxy had told humanity to stay in their corner, to grow up before coming back. Fine. They would do exactly that. But they would do it their own way. 20 years passed like water through fingers. On the Nexus station, the council continued its work. Trade agreements were negotiated. Territorial disputes were settled. New species were evaluated and usually rejected. The galaxy turned as it always had, vast and ancient and indifferent. Ambassador Minho Seo sat in his private chambers, reviewing reports. Most were boring. A mining dispute in Sector 7, a request for mediation from 2 neighboring species. Standard business. Then he saw the line about humanity. Subject: human monitoring report. Status: no contact maintained. Assessment: species has withdrawn to home system. Conclusion: standard isolation response to rejection. Minho set down the report. He remembered the 4 humans standing in the council chamber. The way they had walked away without argument. He had expected them to be back within a year, begging for reconsideration. That's what most rejected species did. But 20 years of silence? That was unusual. They finally accepted their place, he said to his assistant. Primitive species often retreat when confronted with their inadequacies. His assistant nodded. Neither of them gave it another thought. Far across the galaxy, in a system the council had almost forgotten, something else was happening. Director Sora Nam stood on an observation deck floating above Jupiter. Below her, the gas giant's surface swirled in eternal storms. But she wasn't looking at Jupiter. She was looking at what humanity had built around it. Massive collection arrays stretched across thousands of miles. They drank in energy from Jupiter's radiation belts, from its magnetic fields, from the very motion of its moons, more energy than Earth had produced in its entire history, harvested every single day. The council said our energy production was primitive. Sora said to her chief engineer, "Show me the output numbers again." The numbers appeared in the air before her. They were staggering. With this one facility, humanity could power 100 Earths. And this was just the first. Mars had its arrays. Saturn would be next. Eventually, the sun itself would be wrapped in collectors. What about Project Exodus? Sora asked. The first colony ships are ready. We can move 1 million people to the outer colonies within the year. Sora smiled. The council said we were barely ready to leave our moon. Let's prove them wrong. In a research station orbiting Venus, Dr. Yoonji Han worked on a problem the council had declared impossible. She was human, but she had been studying with the Crystalline Collective before humanity's rejection. She had seen their technology, learned their principles, then come home to apply what she learned in new ways. The council's faster-than-light drives worked by pushing against the fabric of space. It was efficient, but it had limits. You couldn't go faster than light speed. You could only go exactly at light speed, and the energy costs were enormous. But what if you didn't push? What if you folded? Yoonji's team had spent 15 years on the theory, another 5 on the prototype. Now they were ready to test it. She watched as a small drone activated its drive. Space around it didn't bend smoothly like with traditional drives. It collapsed. The drone was here and then it was there, a light year away. It had taken 3 seconds. Impossible, Yunji whispered. Then she laughed. The council said it was impossible. Run the test again. They ran it 100 times. It worked every time. Humanity now had a drive that could cross the galaxy in weeks instead of years, and they had built it using principles the council had never considered. In the asteroid belt, or what used to be the asteroid belt, construction continued day and night. The rocks that had orbited between Mars and Jupiter for billions of years were gone. Every last one had been taken apart, atom by atom, and rebuilt into habitats. Millions of humans now lived in the belt. Cities that spun to create gravity, farms that grew food in zero-G, factories that built ships and tools and all the things a growing civilization needed. The council had looked at Earth and seen one world. They had missed the potential of everything around it. Commander Taeyang Choi, much older now, oversaw the military developments. The council had laughed at human weapons. Fine. Humanity stopped trying to copy council weapons. Instead, they developed their own neural interface ships where pilot and vessel became one. The reaction time wasn't limited by hands-on controls. It was limited only by thought. A human pilot could outfly any automated system because humans were creative in ways computers couldn't match. Swarm tactics using thousands of small drones controlled by a single mind. The council built bigger ships. Humanity built smarter fleets. Weapons that didn't try to match the council's energy beams. Instead, they exploited quantum mechanics in ways the council had decided were impractical. They were right. The weapons were impractical. They were also devastatingly effective. The council said we were children playing with toys. Taeyang said to his officers. Good. Let them keep thinking that. Back on Earth, Jinho Park was old now. His hair had gone white. His back was bent, but his eyes were still sharp. He stood in the rebuilt United Nations building and addressed the planetary government. 20 years ago, we went to the council with hope. They sent us home with laughter. Some of you wanted revenge. Some wanted to prove them wrong out of spite. But that's not why we're doing this. He gestured to the screens showing humanity's achievements. The colonies, the new drives, the energy production, the technology that the council had said was impossible. We're doing this because it needed to be done. Because humanity deserves a future among the stars, whether the council approves or not. We don't need their permission to be great. We never did. The assembly voted. The decision was unanimous. Humanity would continue on its own path. No more attempts to contact the council. No more trying to fit into their structure. Humanity would build its own future. In the council's territory, a few observers noticed strange things. Energy readings from the Sol system that didn't make sense. Reports from traders who swore they saw ships that vanished before sensors could lock on. Pirates who raided toward human space and simply never came back. Dr. Yoonji Han, now working for the Crystalline Collective again, sent her reports to the council. Energy output from Jupiter was impossible. Construction on the scale the Sol system showed was impossible. The whole thing was impossible. Her reports were filed away. Nobody read them. Why would they care what primitives did in their own corner of space? On the Nexus station, Ambassador Minho received a brief update. Human activity appears elevated. Recommendation: continue monitoring. He marked it as low priority. Humans were probably just building more moon bases or something equally primitive. Nothing to worry about. The galaxy continued to turn. The council continued to rule. And in the Sol system, humanity continued to build, quietly, independently, without asking permission or approval. They had learned their lesson. The galaxy wasn't going to hand them anything, so they would take it themselves. 50 years had passed since humanity walked away from the council. An entire generation of humans had been born who never knew the rejection. They only knew the stars that humanity now called home. On the Nexus station, the first real warning came from an unexpected source. A Drax military patrol had been chasing pirates near human territory. The pirates had crossed into the Sol system, thinking the primitive humans would be easy targets. The patrol waited at the border for 3 days. The pirates never came back out. No wreckage. No distress signals. Nothing. It was as if they had simply vanished into empty space. General Crorthax, older but still commanding, read the report with irritation. Pirates went missing all the time. It meant nothing. But then more reports came in. Traders who ventured too close to human space reported strange sightings. Ships that appeared on sensors for a moment and then were gone, not jumping away, not warping, just gone, as if space itself had swallowed them. Probably sensor ghosts, Korthax told his staff. But privately, he wondered. Then Captain Junho Beck changed everything. Junho was human, one of the generation born after the rejection. He commanded an exploration vessel for the independent human fleet. His job was simple: map new territory, find habitable worlds, make contact with isolated species. He was very good at his job. In 3 years, Junho's team had mapped an entire sector that the Council thought was uninhabitable. They found 17 worlds that could support life. Some needed terraforming. Some were ready as they were. All of them were beautiful. They also found 3 species that had never known about the Council. Small populations on single worlds, not advanced enough for space travel yet. Junho made first contact with all 3. He shared food and stories. He learned their languages. He offered them knowledge and friendship, asking for nothing in return. Then a Drax patrol found him in what they considered their territory. Unknown vessel. You are in Drax Federation space. Identify yourself immediately or be fired upon. Junho opened a channel. His face appeared on the Drax commander's screen. Human. The Drax commander actually laughed. A human. This far from your little system? You're lost, primitive. Turn around and go home before you hurt yourself. I'm charting territory, Junho replied calmly. This sector isn't claimed by any council member. It's open space. Nothing is open space, human. Everything belongs to someone. This belongs to us. Now leave or we'll make you leave. The Drax commander moved to close the channel. Then his sensor operator made a choking sound. Sir, the human ship, it's not there anymore. What do you mean it's not there? I mean it's gone, sir, vanished, no jump signature. No warp trail. It just stopped existing. The Drax commander stared at his screens. The human ship had indeed disappeared. Not like a ship using faster-than-light travel. Those left traces, signatures, ripples in space. This ship had simply ceased to be in one place and presumably appeared somewhere else. It was impossible. That kind of technology didn't exist. The Council's best scientists had proven it couldn't exist. The Drax commander filed a very detailed report. This time, someone actually read it. Ambassador Minho Seo sat in an emergency council session. Reports were scattered across the table in front of him. All of them about humans, all of them troubling. They have ships that can appear and disappear at will, one representative said. Our sensors can't track them. Our weapons can't lock onto them. They've colonized their entire star system, another added. Every planet, every moon. Even the asteroids are gone. They converted them all into habitats. Energy output from their system suggests they're approaching Type 2 civilization status. A crystalline scientist reported. In 50 years. The mathematical models say this is impossible. Minho listened to it all with growing concern. How did we miss this? We stopped paying attention, Counselor Verasin said quietly. She had been right 50 years ago. Nobody had listened then. We assumed they would stay primitive. We assumed they would develop along the same paths we did. We were wrong on both counts. The Council voted to send an observation mission, a science vessel with full sensor packages and no weapons. They wanted to see what humanity had built. They needed to understand what had happened. The vessel arrived in the Sol system and found something that took their breath away. Earth was exactly as they remembered it. Blue and green and beautiful, but around it orbital rings stretched in perfect circles. On those rings cities gleamed. Billions of humans lived above their homeworld, connected by transport tubes and shuttle lanes that formed complex patterns like neural networks. The moon was covered in domes. Mars had an atmosphere now, thin but growing. Actual clouds floated over Martian valleys. Jupiter wore a web of collection stations. Saturn's rings had been harvested and rebuilt into habitats. Even tiny Pluto had outposts on its surface and the ships. Thousands of them, maybe tens of thousands. They moved through the system like schools of fish, flowing around each other in patterns that seemed random, but must have been carefully coordinated. The observation team's leader, a crystalline named Kavan, recorded everything. The technology alone would take years to understand, but what shocked him most was how different it all was. Council species built big, massive ships. Huge stations, enormous structures that showed their power. Humans built small and numerous, swarms instead of single vessels, networks instead of monoliths. It was a completely different philosophy, and it worked. By the numbers, the Sol system's capabilities rivaled some of the Council's major powers. The humans had done in 50 years what most species took 10,000 to accomplish. How? Kavan asked himself. How did they advance so fast? His science officer had a theory. They weren't trying to copy us. After we rejected them, they stopped looking at our technology as the goal. They developed their own paths. And without our restrictions, our rules about what was possible and what wasn't, they found solutions we never considered. Kavan thought about that for a long time. Then he prepared his report for the Council. When Minho read it, he felt something he hadn't felt in centuries. Fear. Not fear of humanity as a threat. Fear that the Council had made a terrible mistake. The humans had been young, inexperienced, but they had also been innovative and determined, and the Council had laughed at them, mocked them, sent them away. Now they were powerful, independent, and they had done it all without Council help. Which meant they didn't need the Council for anything. What do we do? Someone asked in the emergency session. Minho looked at the data, at the images of the Sol system, at the reports of human ships that could fold space, at the energy readings that said humanity could power 100 worlds. We wait, he said finally. We watch, and we hope they don't remember how we treated them. But in his heart, Minho knew humans remembered everything. He had seen it in Ambassador Jinho Park's eyes 50 years ago. That quiet dignity as he walked away from the laughter. Humans didn't forget, and Minho wondered if they would ever forgive. The galaxy was burning. It started with a trade dispute between the Vextar Empire and the Drax Federation. A small thing. A mining colony in a border system. Both sides claimed it. Both sides refused to back down. What should have been a negotiation became a standoff. The standoff became violence. Within weeks it was war. The Council tried to mediate. They sent peacekeepers. They called for ceasefires. But the Vextar and Drax had hated each other for thousands of years. This was just an excuse to settle old scores. The fighting spread from one system to 10, then to 100. Millions died in the first month. Billions in the first year. Entire planets were bombarded. Civilian populations caught in the crossfire. Refugee fleets fled the war zones with nowhere safe to go. And then the convergence arrived. They came from the edge of the galaxy. Machines. Pure artificial intelligence with no biological components. Their ships were perfect geometric shapes, efficient and cold. They didn't communicate. They didn't negotiate. They simply consumed. Whole worlds were stripped down to bedrock. The materials were used to build more convergent ships. More machines. The fleet grew with every system it consumed. And it was headed toward Council space. The Council's military tried to stop them. Fleet after fleet was sent. The convergence adapted to every tactic, learned from every battle. Council weapons that worked once never worked twice. Within 6 months, the convergence had destroyed more ships than the Council had lost in the last 1,000 years. Ambassador Minho Seo sat in an emergency session that had been running for 3 days straight. The reports were all bad. The Vextar and Drax wouldn't stop fighting each other even with the convergence approaching. Council peacekeepers were overwhelmed. Defensive positions were falling. We need help, someone said. It was the first time those words had been spoken in Council chambers in living memory. The Council didn't need help. They were the greatest civilization in the galaxy. Except now they were losing. From who? General Crorthax demanded. We are the Council. We are the 847 greatest species in known space. Who could possibly help us? Silence. Then Councillor Virazin spoke. Humanity. The word fell like a stone into still water. Ripples of shock spread through the chamber. The primitives, Mio said. The species we rejected? The species that has technology we don't understand, Virazin corrected. Ships that can fold space. Energy production that rivals our greatest powers. A military doctrine based on creativity rather than raw force. The convergence adapts to our tactics because our tactics are predictable. Humans are anything but predictable. We laughed at them, Crorthax said quietly. We mocked them. We sent them away in shame. Why would they help us? I don't know if they will, Virazin replied. But we have to ask. We're out of options. The vote was close. Many council members refused to even consider asking humanity for help. It was humiliating, degrading. The council didn't beg, but they were dying. That was more humiliating than asking for help. Virasin volunteered to make the journey. I was one of the few who advocated for them before. Perhaps they'll remember that. Her ship entered the Sol system 3 days later. What she saw took her breath away. She had read the reports, but seeing it in person was different. The Sol system was a masterpiece of engineering. Every resource used, every space filled. Humanity had taken one star and built a civilization that could rival empires spanning thousands of systems. She was escorted to an orbital station above Earth. There, in a simple meeting room with windows looking down at the blue planet, she met Ambassador Jinho Park. He was very old now. His hair was white as snow. His face was lined with age, but his eyes were still sharp, still intelligent, and they looked at Virasin with an expression she couldn't read. "Counselor," Jinho said politely, "this is unexpected." Virasin had practiced her speech the entire journey, all the diplomatic language, all the careful phrases, but now looking at this old man who had been humiliated by her counsel, the words felt hollow. "We need your help," she said simply. "The galaxy is dying and we can't stop it." She told him everything. The war between Vextar and Drax, the convergence consuming worlds, the millions dead and the billions who would die if nothing changed. "We were wrong," Virasin said. 70 years ago, we were wrong about humanity. You were never primitive, just different, and we couldn't see past our own arrogance to recognize that. I'm begging for humanity to join the council, not as applicants, as full members, as leaders." Jinho listened without interrupting. When she finished, he was quiet for a long time. He looked out the window at Earth below, the planet that had sent him to the council with hope, the planet that had watched him return with rejection. 70 years ago, Jinho said slowly, "we came to you seeking partnership. We were honest about our limitations. We were hopeful about our potential. You laughed at us. You dismissed us. You told us we were primitives who should go home and grow up." "I know," Virasin said. "I know, and I'm sorry. We were fools. We let our pride blind us to your potential, and now we're paying the price for that pride. So we did what you told us," Jinho continued. "We went home, we grew. But we grew in our own direction, not yours. We built a civilization that serves our needs, our values, our vision, and we did it without you." He turned from the window to look at Virasin directly. "The council taught us an important lesson that day. We don't need you. We never did. We were looking for community, for fellowship among the stars, but we found we could create that on our own." Virasin felt her heart sink. She had come all this way, humbled herself, begged, and it wasn't going to be enough. "Please," she said, "I know we don't deserve your help, but millions of innocent beings are dying. Billions will die, species that had nothing to do with our decision 70 years ago. Children who weren't born when we rejected you. Do they deserve to suffer for our mistakes?" Jinho closed his eyes. She could see the weight of decision on his shoulders. The weight of history, the weight of justice and mercy balanced against each other. "I need to speak with my government," he said finally. "This is not a decision I can make alone." The debate lasted 3 days. Jinho stood before the Earth Federation Council. Around him, both physically and through holographic projection, sat the leaders of humanity. Premier Minji Song, who governed Earth itself. Fleet Admiral Daehyun Lim, who commanded humanity's military forces. Chief Scientist Jiwon Kang, who had led the development of their quantum fold drives. Representatives from Mars, from the Belt, from the moons of Jupiter and Saturn. All of humanity's leadership gathered for one decision. "They laughed at us," Admiral Daehyun said. His voice was hard. "They called us primitives, children playing with toys. Why should we save them now?" "Because beings are dying," replied Jiwon. "Scientists, artists, children. Beings who had nothing to do with what happened 70 years ago. Can we really condemn billions for the sins of their leaders? We have no obligation to them," someone else argued. "We owe the council nothing. They made it clear we weren't welcome. Let them solve their own problems." "And what does that make us?" Minji asked quietly. "If we let them die when we could help, are we any better than they were? Do we want to be the kind of species that holds grudges while innocents suffer?" It's not about grudges, Daehyun countered. It's about resources. Every ship we send to, help them is a ship that isn't protecting our own people. Every soldier who fights their war might die far from home. Is that fair to them? The arguments went back and forth. Some wanted revenge through inaction. Some wanted to help on humanitarian grounds. Some saw an opportunity to reshape galactic politics. Some feared that helping would make humanity look weak. Jinho listened to it all. He was old and tired. He had carried the memory of that council chamber for 70 years. The laughter still echoed in his dreams sometimes. Finally, he stood. I was there, he said. I stood in that chamber and listened to 847 species tell me we weren't good enough. I watched our achievements, our dreams, our hopes dismissed as primitive and worthless. I know what it feels like to be humiliated in front of the galaxy. The chamber was silent. Everyone listened. And I also remember what we decided that day. We decided that we wouldn't let their opinion define us. We would define ourselves. We would build a civilization based on our values, not theirs. So the question isn't what the council deserves. The question is who we are. He looked around at all the faces, human faces, his people. Are we the species that helps only when it benefits us? Or are we the species that helps because it's right? Are we the species that holds grudges or the species that looks forward? The council showed us who they were 70 years ago. Now it's time to show them who we are. The vote took an hour. When it was done, the decision was made. Humanity would help. Not for the council, for the innocent beings caught in the crossfire. Jinho returned to Virasin with humanity's answer. We will help you, he said. Not because we owe the council anything, not because we want membership. We've declined your offer to join. We will help because beings are suffering, and we have the ability to stop that suffering. That's reason enough. Virasin felt relief wash through her. Thank you, thank you. We can negotiate terms, discuss payment, arrange for technology transfers. No, Jinho interrupted gently. We don't want payment. We don't want technology. We don't want territory. We help because it's right, nothing more. The human fleets deployed within a week. Admiral Daehyun led the military response personally. His flagship folded into the war zone between Vextar and Drax. 200 human vessels appeared around him, small ships compared to the massive dreadnoughts the two empires were using. But fast, so fast. This is Admiral Daehyun Lim of the Earth Federation. He broadcast on all channels. We are here as peacekeepers. Both sides will cease fire immediately. The Vextar commander laughed. Human, this doesn't concern you. Leave before you get hurt. Last warning, Daehyun replied. Cease fire or we will make you cease fire. The Vextar opened fire on a Drax position. Daehyun sighed and gave the order. Human ships folded into position between the two fleets, not attacking, just blocking. Every shot fired by either side was intercepted by human shields. You can't stop us, the Drax general said. We outnumber you 100 to 1. Numbers aren't everything, Daehyun replied. He was right. The human ships moved like nothing either empire had seen. They didn't just dodge, they anticipated. Pilots linked directly to their ships through neural interfaces reacted faster than any automated system. When the Vextar tried to go around them, the humans were already there. When the Drax tried different tactics, the humans adapted instantly. Neither side could land a shot on the other. And slowly, as hours turned to days, both sides ran out of ammunition firing at human shields. Enough, Daehyun finally said. You can keep trying to kill each other, or you can negotiate. Choose. They chose negotiation. With human mediators, a ceasefire was established within a week. A permanent peace would take longer, but at least the dying had stopped. Meanwhile, Commander Hyun Park, Jinho's granddaughter, led the force against the convergence. The machine intelligence had consumed 17 systems. Council fleets had been destroyed trying to stop them. Hyun studied the convergence tactics. They adapted to everything, learned from every encounter. Council strategies were predictable, so the Convergence predicted them. Then we'll be unpredictable, Yin said. She led her fleet in an attack pattern that made no tactical sense. Ships folded in random directions, weapons fired at seemingly random targets. The entire engagement looked like chaos, but it wasn't. It was jazz, improvisation based on deep understanding. The pilots were all neural linked, all reacting to each other in real time. To an outsider, it looked random. To them, it was perfect coordination. The Convergence couldn't adapt. There was no pattern to learn. Every moment was unique. Every decision was creative. And creativity was the one thing the machines couldn't replicate. The Convergence fleet was contained, then pushed back. Then, remarkably, a communication channel opened. The machines wanted to talk. "Why do you fight with chaos?" the Convergence asked. "It's not chaos," Hyun replied. "It's creativity. Every conscious mind is unique. We don't fight with patterns, we fight with art." The Convergence found this concept fascinating. A dialogue began. Not peace exactly, but understanding. The consumption stopped. The machines withdrew to study this new information. Council observers watched it all in awe. Humans had accomplished in weeks what the Council couldn't do in months, not through superior firepower, through completely different thinking. In the Council chambers, a vote was called. A permanent seat was offered to humanity. No requirements, no obligations, just an open invitation to join whenever they wished. The vote was unanimous. 847 species, all agreeing. But everyone knew what the answer would be. Jinho met with Virasin one last time before she returned to the Nexus station. "The Council has extended a formal invitation," Virasin said. "No tests, no evaluations, no restrictions, just membership if you want it." "Please thank the Council for the offer," Jinho replied. "But we must decline." "May I ask why?" Jinho smiled. It was not a bitter smile, just a sad one. 70 years ago, we would have said yes immediately. We wanted so badly to be part of something larger than ourselves, to have the galaxy's approval. But you taught us we didn't need that approval. We built our own community, our own path, and we've learned we're happiest following that path. "The galaxy needs you," Virasin said. "The galaxy will have us," Jinho assured her. "When species need help, we'll be there. When young civilizations reach for the stars, we'll guide them. We'll share our knowledge freely and our friendship openly, but we'll do it as independent humanity, not as Council members." He paused, choosing his words carefully. "You see, Counselor, you taught us something important. That day we were rejected. You taught us what not to become. When we meet species just beginning their journey, we remember standing in that chamber. We remember the laughter, and we've decided that we will never make another species feel the way you made us feel." Virasin understood. The Council had created something they never intended. By rejecting humanity, they had taught humanity to be better than them. "The invitation stands," she said, "forever. If you ever change your mind." "We appreciate that," Jinho said. "Safe travels, Counselor." He watched her ship leave orbit, watched it fold away toward the Nexus station. Then he turned to look at Earth below. His home. Humanity's home. They had walked away from the Council in silence 70 years ago. Young, rejected, humiliated, they had returned as saviors. Strong, independent, compassionate, and they were walking away again. Not in shame this time, in pride, in the knowledge that they had stayed true to themselves. The Council had laughed, but humanity had the last word, and that word was no.